What's up everybody, this is Master EN Gamer. As many of you have likely already seen, Baptiste was just revealed as Overwatch Hero 30. We did get his origin story video, which I covered in my previous video of mine, and in this video, since we haven't actually gotten any details regarding what his abilities and in-game kit is going to be just yet, he hasn't gone to the PTR at the time of me recording this, he hasn't had any sort of official abilities reveal, so we're pretty much in the dark when it comes to what he's actually going to do. All we know is that he's basically a support hero, so I'm gonna go through and analyze the images we get of Baptiste in this origin stories video to try to predict what exactly he's going to be doing and maybe what exactly kind of support role he's gonna end up playing. Anyways, let's jump right on in. First off, taking a look at his primary weapon, which appears to be some kind of grenade launcher. Now, the design of this reminds me heavily of the Demo Man's grenade launcher from TF2. This one is a bit more high-tech and blue-colored, likely to indicate that he is a support character as opposed to a damage-dealing one. However, what we can see by looking in the side of the weapon here are these little sort of capsules containing what looks like a green fluid, or maybe even a gas. Now, my guess is that he's going to fire these out like a grenade, and they're probably going to have some sort of explosive AoE effect upon impact. Given that he's a support hero, doesn't seem too unlikely to assume that he's going to have some sort of ranged AoE healing ability because of this. Now, maybe it's going to be much smaller than that of like Ana's Bionade, maybe it'll be a smaller radius that it actually affects when it lands, or maybe this does something completely different for all we know. It is green colored inside, which isn't usually the color for healing. In Overwatch, yellow is pretty definitively the healing color. We see that on basically every single support character, but this fluid is green, which might indicate it has some sort of alternate effect. Perhaps it's some sort of buff that applies to your allies instead of only healing them, or maybe it doesn't even heal them at all and only buffs them, or possibly it's a debuff for the enemies. We do know that he seems to be very combat capable, so it seems like he might be like Moira, where he has a lot of DPS potential as well as support potential, in which case his primary fire could even be more focused on dealing damage. We don't know if he's supposed to be a primary healer or a secondary healer, so there's a lot that could be going on here. Now, another really interesting detail I noticed is that if you look at the triggers on the actual handle of the gun itself, you can see there are two of them, two separate triggers, which presumably allows him to fire two different ways. So this could possibly mean that he has two different kinds of ammo. It only looks like there's one kind of ammo in the gun currently, but who knows, maybe there's some other component, kind of like Soldier's pulse rifle, which it has like the helix rockets on this sort of like under compartment. There doesn't really seem to be anything like that on the weapon itself, but it is entirely possible that it can fire two different kinds of projectiles. Or the alternative is maybe it's some sort of like barrage fire, where the first trigger will shoot a single grenade out and the second might shoot out multiple. I don't know how exactly that would work with the mechanics of the gun, but just speculating here because, again, we don't know anything for certain just yet. Moving on from the grenade launcher, though, the next thing I want to focus on is his health packs. Now, in two different images, we see him with health packs. He's holding one here in the image where he's just taken out the other Talon soldiers, and we see three of them strapped to his body in this image here. Now, my guess is that he is capable of essentially deploying small health packs. Whether that means he tosses them out just like Torb's armor used to be, where it just kind of sits there on the ground floating, or if maybe it's something that he can use to restock a health pack that's exhausted, or maybe it's like a more direct heal like we see with Brigitte's armor pack. It's really tough to say. My guess is it's probably going to be like Torbjorn's armor in a sense, but again, this is something that we just have to wait and see what it ends up being. People have speculated quite a bit in the past about the idea of a hero that deploys health packs, so it's pretty interesting to see that we've apparently gotten one now, and I'm actually pretty excited to see how that mechanic ends up working. Now, the other two components I want to focus on for his possible kit are much more subtle. The first is his little eye visor, which covers his left eye. Now, this could be purely aesthetic and not have any sort of functionality whatsoever, but it also might have an actual practical application in his kit. Maybe it allows him to see certain things about enemies. Maybe like Sombra, he has some sort of advantage where he can detect low health enemies, or it serves as some sort of lock-on mechanism mechanism, possibly linked to his grenade launcher. I don't know. Again, it could be nothing, but it was something that did stand out to me and could possibly have some interesting applications in how his character actually functions. The other thing I want to point out though is the antenna on the back of his right shoulder. Now we actually see this in a couple different images of him, and it of course looks a bit different in each of them, and once again it could just be purely an aesthetic design choice to make him look more like a field medic, but on the other hand it may actually once again have an in-game application as part of his kit. Maybe he has some sort of ability to radio in for backup. Perhaps he sends out a radio signal to have a supply drop of health packs come in or something. I don't know, I'm just speculating here. But it was another thing that stood out to me and could be an interesting mechanic to implement. We don't really have any heroes who use like radio frequencies or any sort of long distance communication stuff like that, so it could possibly tie into his kit. Maybe it might even play into his ultimate in some regard, such as if you do get like a massive supply drop or like airstrike he could call in. Although if he's a support, it's unlikely he would have an airstrike that deals damage, so like a support airstrike? I really don't know. It also might mean that he's capable of communicating more so in the way that we already see. Like, we already have the basic in-game callouts and whatnot, but maybe his radio lets him like convey other information. Maybe it's even linked to the little eye visor he has, where when he sees an enemy and it shows up as red for them, it'll show up for everybody on his team then, and he can almost serve as like a sort of scout in that regard, where he's capable of detecting enemies and then sharing that information directly with the rest of his team. Now, I don't know how practical that would actually be, because any sort of high skill tier players would just be making callouts like that anyways, and so I guess it would kind of lose its value in that regard. I don't know. Again, I'm just speculating, and there's not a whole ton to go off of at this point, but it's a very interesting idea to consider, and there might be some potential there. Anyways, that about does it for all the details I've picked up on. Again, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date with any future updates we have about Baptiste, and of course, once he goes to PTR, I will be making videos testing him out, showing off all his brand new abilities, and just seeing how he handles as a character. Before wrapping up, I will say right off the bat, I guarantee you he's going to be getting a Talon legendary skin, either as one of his base legendary skins or possibly as part of the Archives event. And speaking of which, while he's not currently a member of Talon anymore, he absolutely was a member of Talon back when Archives was taking place, depending on whatever Archives mission we're talking about, so he's absolutely a prime candidate for a Archives mission hero. I'm telling you guys, Archives 2019 is gonna be based on Talon, and it's probably gonna include Baptiste as well. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts about Baptiste as a character and what your thoughts are pertaining to his possible hero kit. We're gonna figure out pretty soon, I imagine, but in the meantime, it is very fun to speculate and get hyped for this new hero, which is in game. I'm super excited. We finally have a new support character, and I am very looking forward to him going to PTR. Anyways, leave a like if you enjoyed this video and share with a friend if you really liked it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit up the bell to never miss any of my future Overwatch content. This is Master EN Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.